And I know today's talk, writing at the end of the world is uh, somewhat of a dramatic topic, but also is probably something we all resonate with now, maybe more so than other periods of time. And I want to do this really like a live like exercise, which you don't have to participate in if you don't want to, but you also can. And you can participate in the chat or just like write things down yourself and reflect like privately. Either way works for me because it's whatever works for you. But I first just want to set up kind of the context for today and like the goal, hopefully, that you'll have coming out of this, which is to feel better about being able to share your stories and dive into your creative passions and to be able to carve out more energy, most importantly, and time to be able to do that in a very chaotic world right now, but also having the tools to be able to do that whenever the world or your world gets chaotic. And maybe hopefully, I mean, I'm fingers crossed that like, that you never have to deal with this. Maybe you're listening now, tuning in, being like, life's really good. And I'm not, writing at the end of the world's fun. I just wanted to tune in and hop into the latest Buggos workshop, which if that's you, like, that's great. And I hope you never have to feel, anything like what I'm about to describe. But if you have felt these things and you have felt almost like we're at this sort of end of the world or the end of your world, then maybe this is useful for you. But I first want to share an author who you probably don't know about. I feel like I'm always recommending books, and I'm also especially known for recommending nonfiction books. And I'm switching that up today because I want to recommend you a fiction book, and it's called The Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. But honestly, any of Rebecca Roanhorse's books are great. I'm gonna leave her in the chat. And uh, there's a reason I love her books. This topic's called Writing at the End of the World. Funnily enough, being a very optimistic person, spent years writing dystopian and post-apocalyptic novels. So I very much, you know, get the even the macro feeling right now, and I actually got inspired to write from well, I'd been writing, I feel like, in a more fan fiction way for like, I want to say forever, but like, it was something that was natural to me. Like you start reading and then you start writing. Like, oh, like I read Captain Underpants. I want to write my own version of it. Read Hatchet, by Gary Paulson, one of those classics. And I want to write my own version of it. But I started to feel like I had my own stories when you had this sort of dystopian explosion. And then you had the rise of Donald Trump right around 2016. And I fell in love with like not just reading and not just like creating fan fiction, but this idea of like actually writing myself as a way to process what was going on in the world. And then like 12, honestly depressing dystopian novels turned out of that. So I actually want to describe to you like what that process was like for me and like why I did that personally, and what that helped me through, because I think so many of us now might be in a place where we're writing less. And I actually would like to do a sort of little survey you can put in the chat or speak out loud. Um, in the last, I'll say 100 days, maybe we're at 103 days now. Um, Although I suppose you could bring it back to like even the last 6 months. Who's been writing more over the last 6 months to 103 days? And who's been writing less in that time? Or if you've been writing the same, um, share in the chat or aloud. Like who's been writing more, who's been writing less, who's been like unchanged at all, their writing habits. I'm curious to see. Okay. So Anna just started writing again yesterday for the first time in a long time. That's more about personal life. And I'm gonna touch on that in a moment because that's actually that's a that's great. You're back to writing. Regardless, I love that. Um, Writing's one of the best things we can do for ourselves, I think. Regardless of like, helping readers and stories getting out in the world, I think writing's like one of the best, most therapeutic things. Michelle says, I've been editing about the same. I've also been sick off and on. Okay, so Michelle's kind of struggling along. So Jen's saying I've been writing blogs, but not fiction. So presumably less fiction writing happening from Jen. Nicole says I've been writing about the same, but my writing habits formed over COVID. When I switched to Cozy, it made it easier for me because it was feel good stories when the world wasn't. Also, totally makes sense. It's going to be easier to write certain types of stories now for some folks compared to others. Um, Makes total sense. Shannon says, I feel like I've been writing less um, in the past year, but I started off the year with a Kickstarter. My goal is 700K for the year, hit 768K last year. I should be around 32% of my goal, but I'm at 26%. Well, first of all, 184,000 words so far this year is incredible. I think you're making great progress. Um, but I see you're not ahead of your goal necessarily at this time. Heidi says, since I was writing reactive geopolitical stuff, nothing since November, and I just changed genres because of it. Okay. So I see like a wide range of answers. And this makes sense. And Cassandra says, I've been trying to get back into regular writing after life getting crazy. Also totally makes sense. Um, there's this concept that was really freeing to me because again, this talk's called writing, um, writing at the end of the world, writing from the end of the world. And the thing about the end of the world, I'm using quotes here, is that Rebecca Roanhorse teached me and teaches us as a collective of readers about this really important concept, which is relative apocalypse. And I love these two words together, and they kind of changed how I think about things. Because when we think about like the end of the world, we have to think about for whom. And Rebecca Roanhorse writes from a Native American perspective. And let's be real, like that talk about apocalypse, like it's Native American people throughout hundreds of years and many different times and many different contexts have seen their life, everything as they know it, their society collapse, and they've had to rebuild or readjust or all these terrible things, right? So I recommend her books because they're beautiful and they are science fiction, but incorporate like that really interesting perspective. But when you read post-apoc or dystopian, oftentimes it's this meta context of the world as we know it ending or everything coming down. But what Rebecca taught me is that that isn't the most useful way to think about the end of the world. And then, in fact, this concept of relative apocalypse is much more important. And right now, I think for a lot of folks, like depending on how you're being affected by things going on with federal government changes, that could be very much a relative apocalypse for you. Whereas for someone else, you might not be cheering it on, but you might still be things might be chugging along okay in your life. And you shouldn't feel guilty if you're not experiencing a relative apocalypse now or ever. But the thing is, we're all probably going to have a moment where our lives completely change. And the question when that happens, when things come crashing down, is what are you going to do about it? So Willow says that she just moved countries. So it's been a minute. It's making me crazy getting my office internet set up this next week. Oh, Willow, well, it's great you're like I think it's great you're exploring, and it's probably not a bad time to be in other countries as well. I'm excited to hear more about your adventures. But yeah, internet stuff, I wouldn't live very well without the internet. So are you just doing like cell signal for now, like a hotspot? Um, Maybe like cafe Wi-Fi? Either way, um, I'm happy for you, Willow, and excited to hear. Hopefully, it's going mostly smoothly. Um, on your phone, okay, yeah, yeah, hotspot. That makes sense. Um, so the reason I really started writing was because of, I would say, first like a relative apocalypse in my own life, and then I think at a broader level, it coincided with Trump's first administration, which is funny because now we're at the second admin and we're having this conversation again. And I think a lot of people are feeling similar things. But growing up, some of you may know the story because I've shared it in bits and pieces. But what really inspired me to become a writer is I had to process a lot of things that happened when I was growing up. And it was the only way I could process it. It felt like getting it out on a piece of paper. And for me, it was less imagining it in the sense of a diary, but a story where I could put myself in a character and have them experience the emotions that I needed to process. And what I needed to process at the time was having what I thought my world was kind of come crashing down. And the person who I looked up to the most at the time really was my dad. He was my hero. I loved him, still do love him, but um, he I came to find out that he had gambled all my family's money away. He had stolen money from clients on Wall Street. He was a broker on Wall Street. The FBI was after him, and he ended up not going to jail for a variety of reasons. The biggest one probably being he's a white guy and from New York. I swear that, recognizing that privilege, and it was white collar crime. But he, really messed up, to put it lightly. And that left my mom and also me and my brother in like this very weird position where um, you know, my mom was turning 50 at the time, approaching 50, completely bankrupt. We had nothing, and my dad still kept kind of really lying to me and my brother, telling me that my mom was a bad person and they were the reason that they got divorced. When obviously, like, when you're young, it's confusing. And I was kind of just becoming a teenager, but it was pretty obvious to me that, like, that wasn't the truth. So my whole view of this guy, like I thought I loved, had come crashing down. And a lot of my innocence, I think, about the world and what people were capable of also came crashing down. Because, like, if my dad could do this to me and people he loved and his clients, then, like, and my mom, after being married for 25 years and like kind of living a lie, then like what's possible out in the world. So I had this very like depressing outlook on the world, honestly. And I was very skeptical of institutions, in particular. That's where dystopian comes, right? Government, like, oh my God, big government's going to take over our lives, or big government's going to do bad things, which we should be skeptical of, by the way. Like, we see a lot of things going on now. Like, Handmaid's Tale can totally be real if we're not careful. But I ended up throwing myself into these dystopian books because I found myself in it. And that was really, really important to me. But I had the opposite thing happen when COVID came about because for years I had spent dedicating my life to writing these stories, and they helped me get through a lot of stuff. They helped me learn so much, not only about myself and the world, but also, that was my inroad into business, into this community, into everything. So, like, so grateful for all that happening, like, grateful in a weird way, grateful for my world in that moment ending because it allowed me to reinvent myself. But then COVID happened. And I'll be honest, COVID was a very different and weird experience for me. A lot of folks got into writing in COVID, but I was already writing a lot, and I was writing stories about the world ending or about dystopian technologies. A lot of it was like big tech and like being worried and worrisome about that. A lot of it was about like secret government technologies and all these things, right? And then we come out to COVID, and it's like, oh, well, I couldn't have even come up with a fiction novel this weird. And also this is pretty bad. So automatically it felt like the fictions I were writing were becoming reality. And I quickly started to lose my passion for actually writing the fiction and for actually writing the stories. And that was really, really hard for me. And I had now viewed myself and my identity as not just a writer, but, putting a very specific label before that, dystopian writer, maybe YA dystopian writer or post-apocalyptic writer. But these new events that happened in my life years later, after I had become this type of writer, were making it really hard for me to write these stories. And I was scared to do the thing that I needed to do, which is to reinvent myself. And someone in the chat, I think it was Heidi, right? Heidi mentioned that you're writing more geopolitical things and you're now changing genres. That is one of the big things that I wish I had done, and that you should really think about doing when you're writing at the end of your world, when things are changing and when your life changes and you no longer feel the passion to write something specific that you were before. The end of the world is a new beginning, and that's a chance for you to redefine yourself as a writer. But another thing's equally important, which is that it's really easy to get caught up in a lot of stress and what's happening. And for me, I didn't just feel like I was at the end of the world in a meta context. I also felt like I was at the end of my world in my own business. I felt like I was at the end of the road, so to speak. And I was stressed out constantly about whether my ads were working, about whether I was growing my business. And nothing was ever good enough. I think in 2020, after writing like 2 or 3 years, I'd finally gotten up to the point after publishing where I was able to make, it was right about, I think, light over $9,000 that year in revenue, not in profit at all. If you add up all the expenses, there's no profit there. But it was, things were starting to build, but it felt still very poor to me. I felt like I was not doing well at all. And I felt like my own business was coming and crashing down. And this also made it very difficult for me to write. So in this story now, we're at this point where, um, yeah, wow, Heidi, worse than my fiction plot. Yes, I mean these things happen. I mean, like we can take a different context here. I can't relate to this necessarily to personal level, but like I talked to many romance writers, for instance, where you might be writing, you know, romance stories, and then all of a sudden, you end up going through heartbreak. Um, I was talking to this guy who there's not a lot of male romance writers for the most part, but there are quite a few. I was talking to a male romance writer at one of the story stoppers. He's a super nice guy, and he was like, "Yes, like I made a full-time living for a couple years, writing romance books, but he went through a heartbreak, and he can't bring himself to write romance books anymore because the idea of an HEA to him and somehow ending the story in a happily ever after is not something he can bring himself to do because he is heartbroken. So he's then trying to figure out, how do I reinvent myself? Right? What do I do? How do I become this new version of myself? And he's feeling guilty because he's like, I want to still be able to write romance. And he's tried to force himself to do it so many times, but he just can't right now. So there's so many different things that can happen. Your version of a relative apocalypse that can do that. Nicole says that I used to write a lot, but I had a writing partner who died unexpectedly at the end of 2016. I couldn't continue writing after that and threw myself into my day job instead. I so understand this. My best writing friend died in 2021, and it was horrible. I met him at 20 books in 2019. He was like the first person I met. Nicole says, then COVID, all the alone time made me face my grief over losing my best friend and part of my identity being a writer. It sucked, but helped me rediscover the part of myself that I thought I had lost forever. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, that is that is terrible. And thank you for sharing. And by the way, anyone and everyone can feel free to share anything they'd like in the chat. I think, you know, this is cheesy, but it's true. Like there's the story behind the story, and we focus so much of our time on the story itself. And that's our quote unquote job as writers. But the story behind the story really matters too. Not that we have to share it with the world or share it with our readers, um, but it matters to us, right? Because that story behind the story is probably what we're feeling. And that really, really matters. Um, so that's a really, really great point, Nicole. It's hard to write, period. Never mind write a specific kind of story when the person you associated as your writing partner, who was a huge part of your writing world, is now gone. For me, losing a writer friend is one of the worst things because I know it, you kind of have a special connection as writers where like we get together and like you go, oh, this weirdo finally gets me. Like your family, your friends might not get what it's like to, be in the flow of a story, to have all these ideas running through your head, but this person does. And it's an intimate connection and a very special friendship. So to have that go is very tough because yes, you can make new writer friends, but that person will never come back, right? And that is really tough. All of this is really, really hard. And I know it's not like happy, okay? But we're gonna get to like the practice and like what I would what I do in my own reflection to be able to try and bring myself back to the flow. Because first of all, I will say this. Um, the talk is writing at the end of the world. So I want to help you write at the end of the world. I want to help you write almost in spite in of these, whether it's bad things, grief, everything going on. But also, I don't want you to feel guilt if you like really can't write. I think this will help you be able to get there. And I think that this is a helpful exercise, even if you're in a great place. But you don't have to feel pressure to do what I'm about to say to you. If you do it and you're like, hi, Michael, I'm still like, I can't, I can't do this. I'm still unable to move forward. I'm still not feeling this right now. I get it. And I want you to just to let all guilt go because you, you as an author are not defined by your current word count this month or this year, or even the last 2 or 3 years. Think about how many musicians take breaks for years between albums, right? Think of how many writers take breaks for years. Think of how many artists, right? Painters take breaks for years. It's normal to need time away from anything, including writing. So you should not judge yourself in your own identity as an author based on your raw number word output. That's just not it. And you're not always going to feel like a writer when you wake up every day. And that's okay too. But you don't have to completely say, oh, well, I haven't written in the last year or the last 2 years, last 3 years. Therefore, I'm not a writer. It's like, no, no, no. That part of you is always there. And what I want to help you do is rediscover that and be able to actually let that part of you shine. So the first question to ask yourself is right now, what place does writing serve in your life? So we've seen a few examples in the chat. Is it something that's more escapist for you? Is it like a comforting thing, right? So there's chaos going on in the world, you want coziness. There's chaos going on in your life. You want this cozy experience. Maybe it's there's chaos going in the world and you're like me and you're like, I want to write about the chaos and we'll write about how we can work through it. Maybe you have uncertainty around the future or a fascination with the past. And writing for you is a way to get your unique obsessions out into the paper. Whatever writing stands for you, I want you to write that down and to have that awareness of what place does writing play in your life? What does it fulfill for you? I know I spent a lot of my time talking about readers first, how to put your readers, what place does your writing put in the lives of your readers? And again, like thinking about writing as a business, that's important, really important. I don't want to underscore that. But writing as a business doesn't matter without you. And you need to reflect on, again, what the writing means to you. So Shannon says, I learned about myself that I'm happiest when I'm writing. And I only learned this from tracking my time to see what I was doing. When I have days without writing, my mood drops drastically. Anna says, my new YouTube channel is called Real Author because no author thinks they're a real author. And I've been talking a lot about imposter syndrome. Love it. You love it. I love Real Author on multiple levels. That's an amazing channel name. Erica says, I'm out walking while I listen, so no camera mic free. No worries, Erica. And then Willow says, my stories are hella loud. I feel it's good to spit them out. I totally get this from you, Willow. I could have guessed that. I'm a wicker cage filled with story finches. I absolutely love it. Michelle says, I was writing women's fiction based loosely on my own divorce and custody battle. In 2014, my daughter and I became estranged, and I didn't write much for a few years. A couple of years ago, I switched to sweet small town beach romance because I wanted stories with happy endings. Oh, I've been single for over 20 years now, and I have no desire to be in a relationship again. So I can create the kinds of romance I'd love to have in my stories. Thinking about being at the beach helps too, since I'm at least 800 miles away from the ocean. Yes, you are a proud Midwest gal, Michelle, which is amazing. And thank you for sharing your story. Um, I know a lot of parents who've, had a sever in the relationship with their kids, and I hope if that hasn't come back already, that it does for you. And I totally like my mom actually is a very similar position to you, where like she has had no desire, been with no one, been single for well, not quite 20 years, but well over a decade now. She'll probably hit 20 years before long. And I get it. I get it. So that's a great escape. And funnily enough, actually, um, thinking about your readers too, because my mom's not necessarily a writer, but she does read. Um, she loves those types of books. She loves like, sweet contemporary romance on a beach. That's exactly her type of fiction book. So uh you're doing what's great is that when you are feeling something like you are, Michelle, you get to connect. Your story is and why it's so important to write is like it's not just about you as well. It has to start with you, but you're able to connect with other people going through very similar things. And I can guarantee you your stories are able to do that. Now, Heidi said I switched to 1880s paranormal mystery fiction. There are social and political parallels today, but it's the past. So there is still that emotional distance I need right now to be creative. Now that's a great way of thinking about it, right? Like you want to you mentioned like geopolitical concepts and topics are what you highlight in your books, but how can I do this in a way in which it doesn't feel so real? Because sometimes it's too much to process or not healthy for you. Because again, like who really wants to be caught up in like this hellish news stream 24/7? Some of us might, but a lot of us want some space from it and want writing to be that as well. So Heidi, I love that you've balanced that to be able to still cover these really important things, but to not have it feel like you're drowning in it. Nicole says, it's my dream for my future. I want to go full time and have more control over my life. Michelle says, I want to go full time too. My side gig is stressing me out. I love, by the way, the framing of the side gig, Michelle. It was very smart because if folks don't know, I know Michelle is a teacher, and I love framing that as the side gig. That's it's beautiful. And I get it. I also had a period of like where, especially my brother too, where like we both really had a lot of now, my dad's a very unique situation, and you are almost certainly a thousand times better mom than my dad ever was a dad. But and that's probably almost certainly true. But I had to forgive him and be grateful for that. He still made me who I am, and I think that for you, like, you know, it. I'm glad to see your daughter getting there. Nothing's ever going to be exactly the same, but it's very beautiful. Um, So yeah, I mean, getting this out even as a group, right? Like we're hearing it, like wow, like we're probably already understanding, like we're not completely alone. Like the reason why Michelle writes, the reason why Anna writes, and the things that the place that it holds in our lives is a little bit different from each other, but also like intimately connected. And again, it's really easy to get caught up in the numbers, the ads dashboards, the word counts, everything that all the pressures that come with being an author. But none of that bullshit really matters. Like being an author has nothing to do with how many books you sell, right? Being an author has nothing to do with how much words you write, even. Being an author has nothing to do with where you publish or how good your cover is. Being an author only has to do with the place that writing has in your life. And there's no one singular definition of it. But to every author, writing is really important. Like Shannon said, like writing makes her happy or happier. And it's very noticeable. It's a big difference. And I think that's really important, like for authors, not that writing has to make us happy 24/7, and not that writing is something we have to do every year of our lives, but that writing plays an important part in our lives. And I think that's the first step to just writing at the end of the world is actually to let go of all these other external pressures in authorship. And I think what a lot of our conversations, at least in public forums, tend to revolve around. And instead, like touch deeper within ourselves around what authorship really means to us. Now, the second step is let's get the negative out. And if you have a sheet of paper, you can write this down on the sheet of paper. And what I'm going to recommend you do is like either rip the paper up, light it on fire, throw it out. Not that we are like actually throwing away all the negativity, but I want you to have power over it. And we're going to shift to the positive side in just a moment so that you can get into the flow state. So you don't have to do this exercise live with the paper right now, but you can. And you also can do it in the chat here as well with everyone. Um, and I love that. Yes, I'm all for setting things on fire as well. It is cathartic. It is cathartic. So what I want you to do here is first think about what are the biggest things you spend time on right now that you don't want, that drain you? What are the things that you don't like? And this could be everything in your life, okay? Because ultimately, like part of writing is maybe not a word count, but it's a headspace that we have to do. We do have to spend time in, right? And to actually experience being an author, because you are still an author, even if you haven't done this for years. But to get the benefits of being an author and to really enjoy the process, we do have to spend time in it. So I want you to write all the things you don't like doing. And if honestly, if anything related to the business of authorship and even writing itself is on that list right now, I want you to put that too. Like that is okay. So what are those things? So right now, Shannon's saying AWC drains me, but you love the idea of the conference. I feel like if you and Erica haven't talked yet, you and Erica like absolutely must like talk. Like Shannon, like you and Erica have to talk. Like seriously, just get on the phone and talk to each other. Like you guys would. beyond hit it off if you haven't yet. Um, I haven't talked. You have to talk. Like necessary, 100%. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Like 100%, y'all would like beyond get along. It's scary. And I think y'all could really help each other. So I'll tell you the things that I don't like spending time on. And like bef and I think I systematically try to eliminate things I don't like spending time on, maybe to like an extreme, like a very high extreme, but um I used to obviously hate my day job and I quit that. I didn't like hate every moment of it, but I did, it wasn't like my favorite thing working for someone else. And you have to do some things, but I really was focused on like buying my time back, not having to do that anymore. Um, I really don't like honestly like consuming for the most part the news. I'm going to talk about information diet in a little bit, but things tend to stress me out, and even if it's like positive news, I can get very like shiny object syndrome and bounce about between tons and tons of ideas. And sometimes I have to like have blissful ignorance of what's going on to be able to be okay with where I'm at because I have an instinct to always want to question myself. And sometimes you question yourself less if you know less. It's like, okay, things are going well. Not that you don't want to know nothing. But sometimes I don't need to know all the fancy new tools, the new platform, the new opportunities, or this little change or this thing. It's like, is this really going to change my life? Another thing that I really don't like doing is anything related to um, repeatable work. Shannon was actually talking to me about this before the call went on, but I'm not the type of person who likes to do the same thing twice. It's also part of why I've never really liked editing stories either, because it feels like I'm now reliving the story that I already wrote. It's like I'm ready to write the next one, people. So these are things I don't like, some of it even related to writing. Um, and yes, no, Erica, it really is. Shiny object syndrome and FOMO totally is a difficult combination. Um, Completely. And I don't like these things, so I only consume what I curate. That's a great Shannon. Willow goes housework, paperwork, how distracted my phone can be, promoting myself, uh, and FOMO, 100%. Um, yes, exactly, Shannon. I'm right in the same page as you. Now, time is one thing, but there's a more important thing, which is like, what are you spending emotional energy on that you also don't don't like to be spending emotional energy on? Like what emotionally is draining you in your life right now? What is sucking from you that you'd also like to get out on a piece of paper or in the chat? What is emotionally draining you? That is very important to reflect on. For me, it's weird because um my life is oddly good right now. For the most part. I mean, I literally just am going through a breakup right now. So that's definitely an emotionally draining thing. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything else, but that's also kind of a big thing. So I'm okay. I'm okay. But I'd say outside of a breakup, that's it for me. Maybe it's only one thing for you. Maybe it's multiple things. I tend to have a lot of great people in my life, great relationships. I love what I do. So uh, I'm lucky that part of why I'm able to be very energized all the time is because I probably protect my emotional energy even more than my time. But what is draining you? So Willow's going navigating, learning a new language, draining but good too. That, I mean, that totally makes sense. Which, by the way, that'll be awesome for you to be able to start including some like Spanish, text. I'm excited for Spanish to come into your novels. It will. It just has to. And it says I'm living with roommates the first time in a long time. And been a big adjustment. That can be really draining. I have been through that myself. Travel and all of that lately has been a bit draining to me as well. Nicole says we were thinking about selling our house and moving. I'm in a similar boat, where my mom at least is, and that's kind of changing where family is for me if my family ends up picking up and moving. So similar boat there. Figuring out where we're moving is draining me, especially since we're moving with friends. Um, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And it's probably really hard. I'm stealing Michelle's side gig idea of my full-time job. Yes, full-time job is draining me. I get it. I mean, imagine like Imagine sitting down to write your keyboard, right? And this is what's pressing on your mind. Yeah, Seattle is a very expensive city, Nicole. All the West Coast is quite expensive. Um, yeah, I mean, it's right, it's hard. And there's even beyond the emotional energy as well, too, which is the financial pressure that can come with writing, right? I think all of us have mentioned to one effect or another, things around day jobs or making money from our writing. Like writing is a resource that requires time and energy, but time also low key equals money in our capitalist society, which is sad but true. And you also want to think about like where where are you spending money, or how are you where is money draining on you right now, and why? And I think that like this, I finances can be a taboo topic. You might not want to discuss this in the chat, but that is something I highly relate to. I mean, money anxiety is something I had for a lot of my life. And I think never fully leaves you to a certain extent. My mom never um, always provided for me and my brother growing up. In the sense that we never had anything, we never went hungry, but there's never any luxuries in that situation as well, which I didn't need, nor do I even still want. But it was tough to see my mom have to sacrifice a lot. She sacrificed a lot of her own, everything personally you could ever sacrifice. And, you start to get, some of a scarcity mindset at points. You start to get stressed. You start to value yourself based on that as well. That could be something we all do. We value ourselves based on, we're not a real author yet because we don't make X amount of money. Um, we have to then spend money on certain things we don't want to do. For me, that's been various things throughout my life. But uh, that's a tough one, right? Yeah, parents can be terrible money. Some of us have commitments, like speaking of divorce, depending on how that goes, you might have a lot of commitments you have to shoulder after divorce that you previously had help with, or maybe you weren't getting help because they were a deadbeat anyways. But regardless, regardless of the situation, that's a lot then. And now you're sitting down going, like, I could be writing, but I also want this writing to turn into something for me. And that adds extra pressure to it, where now again, we started off with talking about how the place writing holds in our lives, and no one said, no, none of you said like when I think about writing, I think about like how much money I make directly from the writing and how that benefits me. Like all of you wanted more time to do the thing. It wasn't the thing giving you money; it was the thing itself that was important. But then this thing takes away, in a sense, time that could be used for money, emotional energy that could be going towards this problem or that problem, and it becomes hard to then find that space to write. Nicole said, I put writing into my budget, but the FOMO is real when things come up I haven't saved for, and I have to say no. 100%. I would like to make more, but I'm completely confident in my ability to have enough. Things work out, but I want to explore abundance and the changes of that. Yes, yes, yes. 100%. Money issues are stressing me out. I've had some unexpected big bills in the last couple of weeks, what Michelle says. Yeah, I'm good lately since I went on a new news diet. I feel guilty about being so uninformed, but it's necessary for my creative energy. This is what Heidi says. Um, Also, I've become overly protective of my sleeping hours. This is all like amazing, amazing stuff, Heidi. That's like I honestly like love that for you. And I think that's like whatever boundaries folk need to set, that's amazing. I also love the abundance mindset, Willow. And that's really, really important. Because it's just true. Like anything and everything can be so much more than we think. So, okay, we're at the part of the exercise now where we get to shift the tone, which I always like. Um, Anna says, I've been poor most of my adult life, but was doing better until I got divorced. And now I've been struggling to get back to comfortable for the past year plus. Yes. I mean, this is another thing too, like how many folks, and I get this, um, it's, we're in a situation where it's like, you know, it's cheaper to live with someone else, even if you hate them. And it's like, okay, the emotional energy that takes versus the financial stress of being out fully on your own is you're more than capable of being able to take it on, but that's a lot to handle, right? So that's something to take on. Yeah, news diet is brilliant. Brilliant. We're going to talk about that, Jen, in the end. Shannon says, I've had the money anxiety in which I grew up without food to eat, lost a home to a hurricane, and lived outside and got my first job at 12 and worked 3 jobs all through school so I could eat and have more than one outfit to wear. I only say this for context because of this anxiety. I'm not retired at the age of 45, and I don't need to make money to have the nice life I have now. So instead of equating no money coming in equals not an author, I try to redefine it as I'm an author because I work hard and people are reading my work and love it. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And amazing Shannon too on I'm assuming like with all this you've done some degree of like FIRE, which is like financial independence, retire early, which is great. I was talking with another writer in London at one of the suppers I did there who like just literally like achieved FIRE. I think she was maybe also like in her mid 40s as well and had just achieved it and is like, I'm a full-time author forever now. That's wild. So fire is like a whole separate conversation. It's an interesting concept. It's pretty radical and extreme, but like there's kind of a spectrum of fire. And anyways, I feel like we're gonna go on a totally different tangent, but that's a great conversation because like I think so much of life, like money can be opaque. And actually, you know what? I'll do this now. Drop your email in the chat because I'll do this at the end of the call. I recently wrote like a my 90-day report on me starting my business and was like incredibly transparent on all of my finances, all my personal expenses. It's not something I'm sharing publicly, but I shared it with like a small group of authors. Um, and if you want to have me share it with you, I'll just share it with you over email. I just ask you to share it with other people or like publicly necessarily. But if something like that, having at least some transparency into my finances help for you, let me know. Because I know that like for me, when I've seen other people's finances, and I'm not asking for yours, but people do post these things online, they will share their income breakdown and things like that. It's very helpful for me to understand how they're thinking about things and seeing it because that's what helps you understand money more is like how is someone actually working through it. So if you want to see how I approach money and approach business, like actually not just like my articles, but like really what's happening, then feel free to put your email in the chat and I will share that with you during this call. But what we shift to with all of this, right, is we want to get our anxieties out because honestly, if you're anything like me, I can sometimes avoid these things. Like it's really you feel it, but it's sometimes easy to be like, I know there's this problem, but I'm not going to really think about it. I'm just going to bottle it up and I'm going to move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing and keep going. And trust me, you'll be fine doing that, but you're probably not going to be in the best space to create creatively. You might not be having a ton of fun with the writing. It might just again start to feel like a job, another task, because you've walled up these emotions, these worries, these real things that you, whether it's the time, the money, the emotional energy, and you've just choose to ignore it. So what I want you to do is write it all down if you haven't already, and just take a piece of paper and that you wrote it down on and crumble it up or light it on fire. And I want you to do that because we got to put the worries aside for now. We're going to put the worries aside. Not that they don't exist, because this is an exercise you will do many times. You can do it whenever you feel like you need to. It could be a weekly thing. Daily is probably a bit too much, but it's just anything when you need to ground yourself. Because this next question is the powerful one, which is why is everything going to be okay? You now have to articulate that, and you're not going to light this piece of paper on fire. This is what's staying on your wall while you write. Why is everything going to be okay? Everyone's going to have their own answer, but you have to come up with one. You have to think about it. You have to believe it too. Why is everything going to be okay? Because if you don't believe it's going to be okay, it's going to be hard for it to actually be okay. Um, so y'all can start putting in the chat like what you think, and I'll start sharing some of my advice on how to think about this. Um, my first thing is that I've always believed in myself. I'll thank my mom to instilling me with self-confidence growing up. I try not to be overly confident. I think there's arrogance is not good, but I very much have always believed that I will figure it out somehow in some way. Um, Recently I talk about this in my financial document and breakdown briefly, but I'll share more detail here. Like last July, I was $15,000 in debt, had absolutely no income, and had something that I've spent a lot of time on, uh, kind of get what felt like ripped out from under me. And that was a very tough moment. I remember at the time, now we just broke up, but my girlfriend at the time, I told her, hey, like, I don't have money to see you again. Like, I'm completely broke. And she's like, what? You never told me that. And I'm like, yeah, I just thought everything would be okay. Always was just focused in the future, but like it all blew up now. Like I won't make any money from this thing. Uh, and I have nothing now. And you know, what was really amazing is that it all worked out. I was able to get a job the day it all went down, the day it all went down, and I was fine. I was back up my feet pretty shortly, and was able to save up equivalent to like 15 months of income effectively, get out of debt and save up that much money. In terms of my expenses, where I was able to quit my job knowing I had over a year of expenses banked. And that was in 7 months. So it's crazy how fast life can change. Um, and I'm grateful for it. And I didn't hit it big with a business. I just got a normal, W-2 job and worked my ass off. And I'm not saying that's the answer for everyone, but I knew I'd at least figure it out somehow. We all have our own way. We'll have our own things that we lean on. We all have our own situations. But I knew I'd figure it out. And I've seen my mom also get through some crazy things where I'm like, if she can do it, um, maybe I can't do what she can do, but if I can just do 80% of that, I'll be okay. And the thing is that I know you can too. And I've seen so many people, like when you're pressed up against the wall, or even if you're not pressed against the wall, but you're just doubting yourself and doubting what you're capable of, if you actually believe in yourself and allow yourself to then take the next step, you're going to almost always prove yourself right because you are better and capable of more than I could possibly think. So you have all these worries, you have all these things you're spending time on that you don't want to do. You have all this energy going to things you don't want to go into. You might even have money going to things you don't want to go into. Why is it going to be okay? Willow says, I believe my stories. Sometimes I doubt my skill level when it comes to making them, but the stories, I have faith. So you believe in your stories. That's great. Um, my Clifton Strengths helped me understand this about myself with number one futuristic and number three achiever, which I believe that's same for me. I know I'm number one futuristic. I'm number three achiever or number four or something like that because I know number two strategic. It fits with what I usually tell people because lots ask how you do it all, or they say where do you hire your clones, and I just say I just think of a plan and I do the plan. Um, Love that. Okay, you guys have all this kind of overlapping strengths. I know. I just figured out, started a book called Everything is Figure Outable by Marie Forleo. Very relatable to this conversation. It really is. Like, in fact, like the moments when you have the most worries or when you're going to figure out the most beautiful things. And it's about, again, taking this time to stay in touch with yourself. Um, and the next step that I want you to think about is what does safety and happiness look like to you? Like, now let's imagine the good. You get through these worries. It's going to be okay because of your stories, because of you, because of the plan you come up with, right? Whatever that reason is for you. But then what does this turn into? What the end of the world is not the end of everything. The end of the world is not the end of the universe. So as you keep writing and as you work through these worries, what's going to be the beautiful thing to come out the other side? Just like Rebecca Roanhorse and her stories, the Native American people, they've been through as a collective culture and the hundreds of tribes and all the different groups of people who make up what we label as Native American people and indigenous cultures have been through fucking hell, right? But they're not gone. And, you know, yes, there's still problems and there's beyond systemic issues, right? But if we look at it on an individual basis, there's still beautiful stories, beautiful people. I mean, even look at Rebecca herself being this incredible success story. So beautiful things can come from terrible moments. And sometimes that's you can't wish away something that already happened, so you just have to look to the future. So what do you see as your future? What do you see as being your happy and safe place, and really articulate that? Because I want you to write from a place of strength, from a place of confidence, from a place of courage, because writing, although we may feel and we have all these worries and emotions and we can work through them in our writing, I want you to write, and when you put your author hat on, like it's like a superhero suit. Like you are ready for battle. You can take on all the villains in your stories. You can do anything. And to write from that place of strength, what's funny is you might feel anything but in your daily life. And you might also see the world around you and go like, this is not a place of exactly strength. But your pen, your pencil literally gives you that, right? And I want you, when you pick that up, to feel what that world and that place of strength and happiness and safety looks like for you, because it's that future and that place that we're writing from and for, and that from writing from that is what's going to give you that great feeling. Because even if we're writing at the end of the world, right? it's amazing what we can do in our minds to, again, create this space where we have the energy, the attention, and this and really the heart to get into the flow again. Because that's what we all want, right? The flow. So I want you to think about that. And that might be a longer thought. For some might be a shorter thought, but I want you to remind yourself of that every single time. And then I think with that, you get to a place you can be ready to write. And this exercise doesn't take forever. This exercise can take 5 minutes. It's a simple meditative practice. Breathe in, these are all my worries, right? This is, all the things I don't like right now. This is what I don't like that I'm spending time on. This is what's draining my emotional energy. This is what's draining my bank account. And breathe out because this is why it's going to be okay. And this is what my safe and happy place looks like. It's that simple in and out. Some other things that are going to make it easier to be able to actually get into this space is if you start to treat your mind, and we've now already had this conversation a little bit, but I'm going to highlight it again. If you start to treat your mind like an athlete would, sleep is always important for an athlete and for every human being ever. But there's also something even more important than that, which is when it comes to your information diet. We think about food. If you sit down and you eat, as much as I enjoy ice cream, like ice cream for every meal all day long, it might not be surprising if your body starts to have some negative side effects. Not even going to go into the list of all those because that's pretty obvious that eating ice cream for every meal might not be the healthiest thing in the world. Eating ice cream once a day even is a lot, right? But that's fine if you do. Um, I, I love ice cream, but like every meal is like clearly not what's great for you. But what are you feeding your mind? Are you every day scrolling through TikTok, watching stuff that just isn't that is bringing you these emotions? Is what you're consuming bringing you hope, bringing you calm, bringing you strength, or is it bringing you a bunch of negative crap that is actually accentuating your worries? That is actually giving you new worries, giving you new things that are draining you. I think that's really, really important to like document your information diet like you would think about your actual food diet. No one's going to be perfect. We all love ice cream. A little scroll through TikTok here and there never killed anyone. But you want to be really careful about that. And likewise, your information diet also is partially the community diet that you're a part of. Like Buggos is a great group, but think about like what groups are you a part of? What's the energy in there? What's the mindset? Are these people who are caught up in only the worries and refusing to take that step back, that breathe in and out and start to imagine what could be better and how they can do it? Or are you with people who are stepping into that and who are coming from this place of we can do it? It's not easy. We're not delusional. We know there's problems, and here are our problems. We're going to get them out in the open, but we can do it. Who are you choosing to surround yourself by? Those two actions will make it 10 times easier for you to sit down and actually develop this practice in a way that's like useful for you. So Nicole says I do something like that with morning pages. I journal free write where I start by clearing my head of all the things stressing me out. And then I write about what I'm going to be working on that day. The second half gets me pumped and or helps me figure out an issue with what I'm working on. Willow says I place myself somewhere I feel present and peaceful. Yes, which that's really important too. Like place matters as well. And you know, I want to say like, what's funny is like the world's always been mobile. Americans are moving less now at any time in like recent history, which is actually kind of odd with remote work, but Americans tend to be moving less now. There was a bump with COVID, but in general, the trend's been Americans moving less. And I don't know about other places in the Western world, but um, I mean, it's not easy to move, but your network matters a lot. Your physical network that you're a part of, and sometimes breaking those, like what sociologists call like hard ties. There's weak ties and hard ties. Like weak ties would be something like the Buggo group. Not that it's a weak group, but like these are relatively weak ties. Like you can easily enter and leave this group relatively to like moving, right? But moving is like a hard tie. But those are sometimes like the most effective things to do is like to take the courage to take that leap, whatever that looks like for you. And throughout all of history, before the internet, before mass travel and all these things like that, this was still something we did as a species, really, and that like has tended to be good for people. I mean, don't get me wrong, not every move is going to work out, and the one thing you can't move away from is yourself. So that's really important. But these can be really powerful things. Shannon says, I need the information diet from trying to consume everything about publishing and marketing. I think I read watch more than I retain now. I think this is a hard thing to do. Input is hard. I've deliberately like it's funny because I read a lot. Like I want to say I don't, but like I deliberately cut back my learning. Like if I'm reading more than I'm talking to friends, that was not a good week. That's my metric. Because like, you know, I don't think the solution is just do things, you know? But like I would rather consume my information a different way if I'm like just getting input from like, you know, a source where it's talking at me and not with me. But if I'm talking with it, um, I like that to balance it out. It's almost like, your carbs and your veggies or whatever, you want your analogy to be with food. So I'd recommend that for you, Shannon. Anyone else who's like high input or high learner, who's like constantly learning. And I imagine a lot of you people who are here, a lot of people who've ever been drawn to anything I do, because I tend to just spew a ton of information, is going to be high in input and learning. But you should be constantly trying to balance what type of and how you're learning, right? So it's not just about learning about craft here, marketing here, and all these different buckets. It's like, how are you engaging? Is this a social form of learning, or is this more of a passive form of learning? And I'm always going to index for do at least as much social learning as passive learning. Exactly, that is all of Buggos. Exactly, like you're in the right space. All of Buggos are highly input learning, but Buggos is also like the space where you get to bring this together. Like that's why Buggos is so awesome, right? Because you get to bring that together. Um, let's see. I get that after a while, I don't have time to use the information online. Yes, no, I mean you can't do it all. Even ideas, right? Like someone spews out 10 ideas. It's like, great. Well, I have time for exactly zero of these. Never mind one. Um, yeah, it's also about like you can get into a flow with learning, but you want to be in the flow where you are the creator as well. And I think that's what this whole process is about too. And sometimes learning is a crutch we learn like lean on because it's like I don't believe I'm enough, but I believe what this person on screen is enough because of X credibility and X, thing. So I believe if I do what they're telling me, or I take some of what they're telling me, some of what this smart person's telling me, that will be enough. So it's not that I'm enough, it's that these other things are enough that I'm going to then emulate. Which again, learning's great, but if your learning's coming from that place, then you should dial it back. And then again, start to think about internally, how can you feel enough? How can you believe you're going to get through it? Because you saying like things are going to be okay because of someone else is like about the most disempowering thing ever. I'm going to be okay because person Y on the internet or in person is going to tell me what to do. And I'm going to be okay because of that. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. That's not, don't get me wrong. You want advice from people. Like you don't want to like block out everything, but like you're going to be okay because of you. Yeah. Lots of learners here. Yep. Journaling is helpful. Learners, and that's okay that learner's not in your top five. That's okay. That's more than okay. Um, AI really helps me organize my information about it. I can take all of it in and spit out tidy little summary. Yeah, yeah, it is very helpful. Um, and a tool that can be used too, where um, I'm, you know, increasingly folks are using like for even a meditative practice like this. Um, different types of AI tools. Like one in particular that has like picked up a ton of popularity is Tolan. People are using Tolan as a friend to help them work through issues in their life. Tolan's free. They have like some paid components to it, but it's mostly a free app. So like I'm all for utilizing different tools. I personally go to therapy, so that's I do one of the things I do. I shouldn't say it's the only thing I do. Um, so there's a lot of different ways to approach it. Yeah, buggos are compulsive learners. You need to I love it. Um, well, no, this is amazing. It's just a very different style and probably flavor of workshop compared to what you're normally used to from me. Um, but I hope this was enough to be actionable. I doubt much of this, if any of it's new, but hopefully it's a helpful reminder because I think the end message is like you are an author, who you are, not anything else. It's not anything external. Nothing externally makes you an author. It's an internal thing. You internally can get through anything. And I want you to imagine where things are going and what all the negative things are today and get it all out and try to put those negative things aside and really dive into what could be better. Because that's ultimately what stories are about. It's ultimately what the hero's journey is about. So that's what I have for you all today. I'd love to answer any questions, and then um, I do have to get going in a few minutes to catch a flight, but I'm not like, I don't have to go like this singular moment, but probably in the next 5 minutes, I should probably head out. But um, let me know any questions y'all have. I'm gonna share for the folks who put their email in the chat, I'm going to share the thing with you right now. And it was a lot. It was like an emotional, like probably like heavy talk today. So it's okay if there's no immediate questions. But actually, I see messages rolling in now. Thanks. Okay. No, thank you. Oh, thank you guys. Um, you can also ask questions about anything. It doesn't have to be about the topic today. So, if you have anything to,
Um, can you hear me okay?
I can. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tell you, I thought this was a really strong class, and you may want to save this format for using again elsewhere. I think it was really helpful. I think I will actually probably come back in to listen to this one again when I'm on the struggle bus. So I think this was a really, really solid class. Thank you for taking the time to put it together.
Yeah. My pleasure. I think I've been through it like a lot of y'all have. So I get it. And I think these are the reminders I needed myself personally and still do need constantly. Let's see. I see some other messages in the chat, which I'm going to get to, but I'm also currently sharing the emails, the folks who put in. If you want like my little business update, it's 5,000 words long. If you want it, just put your email in the chat and I'll send it over. Again, not something I'm sharing publicly, but um, a big thing that I'm on when like vulnerability, I think is important, like being vulnerable with ourselves first and foremost. But when we have a community where we want to be vulnerable together, I think that's important. And this is less of an emotional talk, although today was emotional talk, but this document I'm sharing with these with y'all who put your email in the chat is less an emotional document, but more so just practice and mutual vulnerability around business. And I think that's important too, because again, not enough of us we get the 3 paragraph Facebook post, but we all know there's more that goes into it. And I think that sometimes all you can do is be transparent. And I actually would encourage you all, because it's a service to each other, to try and do a similar exercise as I've done here and share it with folks that you feel comfortable sharing with, because I think it could be really valuable to share your sort of update or report. Perfect. I'll share it with you right now, Heidi. Um, y'all are the best. Seriously, let me know any questions you guys have. Um, I I mentioned in the chat for folks who aren't yet a part of the Readers First Challenge. If that's something you want to do, absolutely, like literally no pressure. But I know a few folks here are already doing it, so I will see you this week, hopefully. And if you aren't signed up yet and want to do it, just email me at hello@author sidekick. I'm giving everyone in the Buggos 80% off. Right now, it's in beta, but you have lifetime access to it. And if you're curious what that is, just check out the landing page. A lot of you already have access to it, to be clear. I don't off the top of my head know everyone who does. But if you should have received communication from me at some point and should be loaded into it already and know the schedule. So if you don't know the schedule yet, you probably don't have access, and that's okay because we can get you set up. Oh, did it not show up? Huh. Let's see. Huh, really? Did for me. Well, maybe this link works better because that's technically a redirect. So maybe that works better. Try that link. It'll be directly to it. That's just like a little bit about it. Um, yeah. Okay, everyone. Um, hope everyone has amazing rest of their weekend. Um, we'll be in touch. Buggos are awesome. I'm sure I'll do another one of these. Me and Willow will talk before long. I'll be back. We'll figure it out when works best for y'all's schedule. Um, and as always, together we are boundless. See y'all soon, and I'll send you the recording, Willow, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay. All right. See y'all soon. Bye, everyone.